Jannik Sinner has been the calm at the center of Wimbledon's chaos this year. Entering the tournament as the world #1 and one of the most consistent players on tour, Sinner looked poised for a deep run, but now everything surrounding his campaign feels less certain. What began as a small injury concern has quickly become one of the biggest storylines at Wimbledon, and it might have just opened a major window for Carlos Alcaraz. The concern began quietly after Sinner's most recent match, a win over Grigor Dimitrov that ended with the Bulgarian retiring early due to injury. While most of the attention went toward Dimitrov's dramatic exit, there was something off about Sinner too. He had slipped during the match and received a medical timeout for what was later revealed to be elbow discomfort. At the time, it didn't seem serious. He finished the match, kept his composure, and walked off without showing too much distress. But it wasn't long before his name came up again, this time not in a match report, but on a medical schedule. Soon after, it was revealed that Sinner had booked an MRI scan for his elbow. That was already enough to raise some eyebrows, but the bigger concern came when he canceled a scheduled outdoor training session. He was due to hit at 4 p.m., a normal pre-match routine, but pulled out entirely. When a world #1 skips training before a quarterfinal at a Grand Slam, it's never something to overlook. Fans and journalists began to speculate immediately. Was this just rest or something more serious? To make things even more interesting, Sinner trained not outside, as per usual, but indoors. He had resumed a controlled hitting session inside, away from the cameras, likely under the guidance of his medical team. This wasn't a full return to normal training, but the fact that he was out there again, testing the arm, suggested the team is still evaluating rather than fully shutting him down. It's a sign of caution and uncertainty, not confidence. At the elite level of tennis, even the smallest physical concern can throw a player off balance, especially when it involves the elbow, one of the most stressed joints in the game. For someone like Jannik Sinner, whose style depends on explosive forehands, consistent power, and a tightly controlled serve, any disruption in that area can shift everything from timing to confidence. So far, his team hasn't issued a clear update on the results of the MRI he underwent after his fall against Dimitrov, but speculation only intensified after a photo began circulating on social media, showing Sinner wearing an elbow sleeve during training. The image quickly sparked concern, raising questions about whether he's managing a lingering issue and if it could affect his game moving forward. While continuing to train suggests there's no major injury, the sleeve itself became a symbol of uncertainty. It brought to mind Carlos Alcaraz's situation last season, when he was cleared to play but clearly holding back on his forehand, first in Madrid, then in early rounds at Roland Garros. That hesitation didn't come from pain, but from a lack of trust in his body. Speaking of Alcaraz, the Spaniard might profit from these unfortunate events, as Sinner is his biggest obstacle in this Wimbledon. Alcaraz has had a solid run so far, dropping some sets, but never losing his grip on a match, with Novak Djokovic still managing his own physical concerns and seen as the third best in the tournament and no other clear frontrunner. Many saw Sinner as Alcaraz's most serious threat at this year's championships, and now that threat might not be at full strength. For Alcaraz, this could turn into a massive opportunity. Whether Sinner plays through the pain or withdraws entirely, the Spaniard suddenly finds himself with a clearer path. That doesn't mean he'll be handed the trophy, but it does tilt the landscape. Momentum matters in tournaments like these, and right now, it's shifting in Alcaraz's favor. This also has long-term implications beyond Wimbledon. Alcaraz and Sinner have been locked in a fierce but respectful rivalry. They've traded titles, shared epic matches, and essentially taken over the spotlight from the generation before them. If Sinner is forced to miss time, or even just play at a reduced level, it opens the door for Alcaraz to gain ground in that race for dominance. Still, there's no certainty yet. Sinner could recover in time, deliver another clinical performance, and push deep into the second week. He's shown incredible mental strength before, playing through physical setbacks without letting them disrupt his composure. But the elbow is different. It's not just about pain, it's about control, precision, and confidence. If even one of those is missing, his chances drop significantly. For now, fans wait. The practice cancellation, the indoor training, the MRI, it's all pointing to a player walking a very fine line. Whether it's a precaution or the start of something more serious, we'll know soon enough. As the spotlight narrows on the final stages of Wimbledon, Jannik Sinner's uncertain condition casts a shadow not just over his own campaign, but over the entire men's draw. And while that may sound like a stretch, anyone who's followed the tour closely over the past 2 years knows exactly why this moment matters so much. Sinner isn't just a title contender, he's the main obstacle standing in Carlos Alcaraz's way. The dynamic between Sinner and Alcaraz has shaped modern tennis. They're not just the top two seeds, they've also become the two names that fans expect to meet in the final. Their rivalry has grown quietly, but intensely. They've already delivered some of the best matches of the last 18 months, with the most recent example being the 5-set classic at Roland Garros. Alcaraz came out on top that day, but only after battling through some of the highest quality tennis seen in a Grand Slam semifinal. It's not just that they're both brilliant, it's that they seem to bring out the very best in each other. That's what made a potential Wimbledon final between them so exciting, and now it's in jeopardy. If Sinner's elbow isn't fully healthy, or if his team is managing it carefully just to get him through the next round, the entire tone of the tournament changes. Alcaraz, who has had his own shaky moments earlier in the tournament, now suddenly appears more in control. His biggest challenger might not be at full capacity, and in a sport where margins are razor thin, even a 5% physical dip can make all the difference, especially on grass, where rhythm and reaction time are everything. This isn't the first time a potential injury cloud has hung over a slam. What makes this one so interesting is the timing, and who stands to gain from it. Unlike past tournaments where Novak Djokovic was the ever-present obstacle for every young star, this time it's Alcaraz who's beginning to assume that role, and Sinner is his only true equal right now. Djokovic, while still dangerous, is dealing with his own physical limitations. Daniil Medvedev hasn't looked particularly convincing on grass, and the rest of the field, while strong, doesn't seem capable of reaching that same elite level right now, which brings us back to Alcaraz, and this unexpected window of opportunity. Alcaraz himself has said recently that Sinner is pushing him to improve. He knows how tight their matchups are, how they often come down to small moments. That's part of why this injury news might shift something mentally for Carlos. Whether consciously or not, he'll know that his path just got easier, or at the very least, less predictable. That doesn't mean he'll relax, but it might allow him to play with more freedom, especially if Sinner shows any visible signs of struggling in his next match. And from a fan perspective, this development has caused some mixed emotions. On one hand, there's the disappointment. Everyone wants to see the best players at their best, especially in a potential final that was already shaping up to be historic. On the other hand, there's the curiosity, because this is the kind of moment that can define a tournament. Will Sinner's body hold up? Will Alcaraz rise to the moment and take full control of the draw? Will someone unexpected seize the opportunity instead? It's also worth mentioning that Sinner hasn't missed much time this year due to injury. In fact, one of the strengths of his 2024 season was how well he managed his schedule. He made smart decisions, skipped certain events, and avoided burnout. That's what allowed him to reach #1. So for him to suddenly be dealing with an elbow issue at Wimbledon of all places, and for it to be serious enough to cancel practice and wear a sleeve, that raises eyebrows. He's not the kind of player to take a break unless he really has to. For now, Alcaraz continues to prepare normally, staying focused on his side of the draw, but make no mistake, he'll be watching closely, not just to see if Sinner plays, but how he plays, whether he's favoring the arm, whether the serve loses some bite, whether the movement is restricted. Alcaraz has the kind of tennis IQ to notice the small details, and if Sinner's not at 100%, Carlos will smell it. There's still a chance Sinner will power through, deliver another strong performance, and put all these questions to rest. But even then, the narrative has shifted, and for Alcaraz, that shift could be the difference between battling through another 5-set marathon and lifting the trophy with a cleaner path. In a tournament where so much changes match to match, one thing now feels clearer than ever. If Sinner's not healthy, Wimbledon 2025 may become Alcaraz's to lose.